Have you ever loved someone who seems close one moment, but then suddenly pulls away the next? Have you felt the confusion of wanting to connect with someone who keeps building invisible walls around their heart? Behind those walls lies not coldness, but fear. Today, we are going to uncover the hidden fears of avoidant lovers, fears that they rarely admit, even to themselves. Because once you see these fears for what they are, you can understand them, love them with more compassion, or protect your own heart with clarity. For the avoidant lover, freedom is not just a luxury, it is their lifeline. They are deeply afraid that love will become a cage, a set of invisible bars that lock them in, suffocating their sense of individuality. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a wide-open field, the wind brushing against their face, the horizon stretching endlessly before them. That's how they see freedom. But the moment they step into a relationship, they feel as if walls start rising around them, piece by piece. Even when no one is actually limiting them, their mind whispers, "If I give myself fully, I'll lose myself." This fear often comes from past experiences where closeness meant control. Maybe in childhood, they had parents who were overly demanding, never giving them room to breathe or express themselves. Or perhaps they once loved someone who tried to mold them, change them, or restrict their choices. To them, commitment becomes synonymous with sacrifice. Instead of imagining partnership as a dance between two souls, they imagine it as a prison where they will lose their spark, their individuality, their voice. What's important to understand is that this fear doesn't mean they don't love deeply. In fact, they often love so intensely that the thought of being consumed terrifies them. They want closeness, but also need distance. They long for connection, but are terrified of dependence. It's like they are constantly caught in a tug-of-war between desire and self-preservation. Their partners often misunderstand this. They think, "Why are they pulling away if they love me?" But the truth is, pulling away is not rejection, it's survival. In their hearts, avoidant lovers believe that the only way to stay safe is to stay independent. They fear that once they are owned by love, they will lose themselves completely. And so, they guard their freedom fiercely, sometimes even at the cost of intimacy. They would rather feel lonely but free than loved but trapped. This is why avoidant lovers often sabotage relationships when they start to feel too close. They'll create distance, start arguments over small things, or disappear emotionally, all in an attempt to reclaim the space they fear they're losing. But beneath that resistance is a truth they rarely admit. What they crave most is a love that allows them to remain themselves. A love where freedom and connection can coexist. A love that doesn't demand they choose between individuality and intimacy. Their greatest fear is losing their freedom. But what they don't always see is that real love doesn't take freedom away, it expands it. For the avoidant lover, one of the deepest hidden fears is not rejection, not abandonment, but something far more vulnerable, the fear of being truly seen. To be seen means to be known. To be known means to be exposed. And to be exposed feels like standing without armor in a world that once taught them vulnerability was dangerous. Many avoidants grew up in environments where emotions weren't safe to express. Maybe they had parents who dismissed their tears with phrases like, "Stop crying, you're too sensitive." Or perhaps they were raised in homes where silence was the rule, where feelings were locked away because expressing them would bring punishment, criticism, or shame. Over time, they learned a dangerous lesson. Showing your true self is not safe. So as adults, they build walls. They become experts at creating masks, smiles when they're hurting, confidence when they're unsure, coldness when they're craving warmth. They keep people at a distance, not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much. To let someone in would mean letting them see the scars, the cracks, the parts of themselves they secretly believe are unworthy. And here's the heartbreaking truth. Deep down, avoidant lovers often long for that intimacy. They want someone who sees through the mask, someone who says, "I see you, all of you, and I'm not going anywhere." But the closer someone gets to uncovering their true self, the more they panic. They think, "What if you see my insecurities and walk away? What if you discover I'm not as strong, not as perfect, not as lovable as you thought?" To them, being seen feels like standing under a spotlight with all their flaws magnified. They carry the belief that if their partner sees the real them, rejection is inevitable. So they protect themselves by keeping emotional distance. They might avoid deep conversations, change the subject when it gets too personal, or shut down altogether when asked to share their feelings. Their silence isn't emptiness, it's self-defense. This is why relationships with avoidant lovers can feel like a paradox. You sense their depth, you feel the unspoken love, you notice the walls, but every time you try to get closer, they retreat. It feels as though you are chasing shadows, always reaching but never fully touching. And it's not because they don't care. It's because caring terrifies them. Their hidden fear is simple yet profound. If you truly see me, you will not stay. And so they live in a painful contradiction, yearning for closeness but fearing it at the same time. But here's the untold truth. What avoidant lovers need most is not someone to tear down their walls, but someone patient enough to sit outside them until they feel safe to open the door. Because once they trust, once they believe they can be seen without judgment, they are capable of offering a love so loyal, so deep, and so rare, it can transform everything. For many avoidant lovers, depending on someone else feels like stepping into quicksand. The more they lean, the deeper they fear they will sink. Independence isn't just a choice for them. It's their shield, their safety net, their fortress. Somewhere in their past, they learned that relying on others leads to disappointment, betrayal, or abandonment. Maybe they grew up with caregivers who were emotionally unavailable, who didn't show up when they needed comfort. Maybe they experienced heartbreak where someone they trusted the most walked away when they were most vulnerable. Whatever the root, the result is the same. Dependency equals danger. To an avoidant, love feels beautiful but fragile. They might think, if I let myself lean on you, I'll lose control of my life. If I count on you to hold me, I'll eventually fall when you let go. So they armor themselves with self-sufficiency. They pay their own bills, make their own choices, carry their own emotional weight. They pride themselves on not needing anyone. But deep inside, this strength is born from fear, not freedom. The irony is, avoidants are often the ones who crave love the most. They secretly long to be able to rest in someone's arms, to know that they can let go and still be caught. But that longing terrifies them because it makes them vulnerable. And vulnerability, to them, feels like exposure to pain. So they silence it, bury it, pretend it doesn't exist. This is why in relationships, avoidant lovers can seem distant or emotionally unavailable. They don't want to owe anyone anything, not even emotionally, because owing creates a risk of disappointment. If they rely on you and you fail them, it reopens the deepest wound they carry, the wound of being let down. And so, to avoid that risk, they choose distance over dependence. But what partners often misunderstand is this. Their avoidance isn't about not caring. It's about survival. Their walls are not proof of indifference, but of how much they fear the consequences of letting those walls fall. They would rather appear cold than risk the devastation of betrayal. They would rather be lonely on their own terms than dependent and hurt on someone else's. The hidden fear here is powerful. If I need you, I'll eventually lose you. And if I lose you, I'll lose myself. So they guard their independence fiercely. Yet what they don't realize is that true intimacy doesn't strip away independence, it strengthens it. Real love is not about losing yourself in someone else, but about being free to be your whole self alongside them. At first glance, avoidant lovers look like the strong ones. They seem calm, unbothered, detached, as if rejection doesn't faze them. But the truth is, behind that calm exterior is one of their greatest hidden fears, the fear of rejection. It's not that they don't care. It's that they care so much, they believe rejection would break them. And so they've developed a strategy. Reject closeness before closeness has the chance to reject them. It often looks like this. A relationship starts strong, filled with attraction and connection. But the moment intimacy deepens, the avoidant begins to withdraw. Calls take longer to return. Conversations stay on the surface. Physical closeness feels harder to maintain. It's not because the feelings are gone. It's because the feelings are too strong. They're thinking, if I let this go further, it will hurt more when it ends. If I let you get closer, it will cut deeper when you leave. This self-protection creates confusion for their partners, who often misinterpret the withdrawal as indifference. But the truth is, the avoidant is often just as afraid of rejection as someone who clings too tightly. The difference is in the response. Where one might chase love, the other runs from it. Where one might beg for reassurance, the other creates distance. Both are driven by fear. fear of the pain that comes from rejection. Their detachment is not strength. It's armor. It's the emotional equivalent of saying, if I pull away first, you can't hurt me. They think by rejecting closeness, they are rejecting pain. But in reality, they're rejecting love, too. They end up depriving themselves of the very connection they crave, all to protect themselves from the possibility of loss. It's tragic, really, because many avoidant lovers are deeply sensitive, carrying hearts that feel every word, every silence, every shift in energy. And yet, they hide it beneath a facade of indifference. Their partners may never know how much they actually care, because their fear keeps them from expressing it. Their hidden fear is this: if I open my heart and you don't choose me, I won't survive it. And so they build walls high enough that rejection can't touch them. But what they don't realize is that those same walls also keep out love, healing, and joy. For avoidant lovers, emotions, especially intense ones, can feel like tidal waves crashing against fragile shores. They fear not just love itself, but the overwhelming rush of feelings that comes with intimacy. To them, emotions aren't just feelings. They are floods that threaten to drown them. When love grows deep, emotions grow strong. Vulnerability, conflict, intimacy, all of these stir a storm inside the avoidant. Instead of seeing emotions as natural currents of human connection, they experience them as tsunamis. They think, if I let this in, I won't be able to handle it. If I feel too much, I'll lose control. If I surrender to these emotions, I'll drown. This is why avoidant lovers often shut down during arguments, withdraw when things get too intense, or numb themselves when confronted with deep feelings. It's not that they don't care, it's that they care so much, they don't know how to regulate what they're feeling. Emotional intensity becomes unbearable, so they retreat into silence, detachment, or distraction. Their partners may interpret this as coldness, but in reality, it's an act of self-preservation. For the avoidant, emotional overload feels like standing too close to fire. The heat is beautiful but painful. The safest option is to step back, even if it means losing warmth. Often, this fear of overwhelm comes from childhoods where emotions weren't modeled in healthy ways. Perhaps they had caregivers who exploded in anger, leaving them terrified of strong feelings. Or maybe they grew up in households where emotions were repressed, never spoken about, never managed. As adults, this lack of emotional grounding leaves them ill-equipped to handle the tidal waves of intimacy. And so, their hidden fear is simple. If I let myself feel too deeply, I'll lose myself in the process. They worry that emotions will consume them, that they will be powerless against their own hearts. And so they keep distance, not because they don't want love, but because they fear they cannot survive its intensity. Yet the truth is, emotions aren't meant to drown us. They are meant to teach us, to guide us, to shape us. Love's tidal waves are not meant to destroy, but to cleanse. If only avoidant lovers could see that emotions are not enemies but companions, they might realize that the storm they fear is also the ocean that can set them free. Beneath all the walls, beneath the silence, beneath the pushing away and pulling back, lies the deepest hidden fear of the avoidant lover, the fear of not being enough. This fear is the silent shadow that follows them everywhere, whispering in moments of intimacy. If you really knew me, you wouldn't love me. Many avoidant lovers carry wounds of inadequacy from early in life. Perhaps they grew up in homes where nothing they did was ever enough, where achievements were overlooked, where affection was scarce, where love felt conditional. Or maybe they experienced heartbreaks that reinforced the idea that they weren't lovable as they were. Over time, they internalized a painful belief: I am unworthy of love. This belief becomes the root of their avoidance. Because if deep down you think you are not enough, then love feels dangerous. Love becomes a mirror, one that might reflect back all your insecurities. To let someone close is to risk exposure, to risk them discovering the truth you've carried all along. So, instead of risking rejection, they withdraw. Instead of leaning in, they lean out. Instead of embracing love, they sabotage it. Not because they don't want it, but because they believe they don't deserve it. Partners of avoidant lovers often feel confused by this. They sense the depth of the avoidance feelings, but are frustrated by their distance. What they don't see is that behind that distance is a terrified heart whispering, please don't see my flaws. Please don't discover I'm not enough. Please don't leave. This fear can be devastating because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. In avoiding love out of fear of inadequacy, they create the very loneliness they were trying to avoid. They push people away before anyone has the chance to prove them wrong. Their hidden fear is not about love itself. It's about worthiness. It's about believing that no matter what they do, they will never measure up. And until they challenge that belief, they will keep building walls, keep running, keep sabotaging. But here's the truth. Every human being is enough. Love is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up as you are, scars and all, and allowing someone to embrace you anyway. For avoidant lovers, healing begins the moment they realize that worthiness is not earned. It is inherent. They don't have to be more, do more, or prove more. They only have to allow themselves to be loved as they already are. Thanks for being here today. If this message touched you, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who may need these words. Protect your heart, value your peace, and never forget, you are worthy of true love.